Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you on today?
I am doing great. How are you doing, Sunny?
Wow, thank you for asking. You know, feeling pretty exhausted, but doing my best to just get out of bed each morning and live, as they say. So that's the
Uh,
update.
under- Understandable. Here, let me tell you something. So, as you may know, I've had a lot of free time in my hands recently.
Mm.
And besides making spoopy Halloween crafts, I've also watched a lot of movies because I love cinema and I don't think I really got the chance to do so very much before.
Heck
And so
yes!
recently,
I love
no,
movies.
it's great. Yeah, it's great. Um, and especially like recently I've gone out and actually like bought like DVDs because I'm like, there's a lot of things you can stream, but some you can't, or it ends up being cheaper to actually just like buy a DVD of the thing than to buy the thing digitally. And you get to have the thing like physically, you get to have a case, a disc, like you get to own it in your hands, and I kind of like that. So anyway,
Mm.
um, watching movies recently, right? So recently I just I decided to purchase the Resident Evil franchise. And let me tell you something. I'm not like an action fan. I'm definitely a horror fan, but not an action fan. And these movies blend the two things together, right? Those two things. So why did I buy these? Because I just was curious. I was curious. Corona, zombies. I kind of just like it made sense in my head. It clicked. I was like, I don't know. I kind of just want to watch these. Like they've always been kind of a meme because they're so bad or whatever. But I found them for really cheap one day, and I was like, why the hell not? So I bought them. I watched all six of them in 2 days. And
One
by the way, the division in those 2 days was I watched the first two the first day and the other four the second day. So that was a
That's
very
way worse.
productive day.
Oh my gosh.
My brain was mush. Let me just tell you. Okay, so first of all, um, Mila Jovovich, right? Alice in the movies, hot
Mm.
and also a way better actress than you'd expect. Um,
Mm.
yeah, we kind of stand. I actually liked her so much after these movies. Not again, not necessarily the movie so much, but her. That after these, I actually watched this like Resident Evil ripoff that she started back in 2000 and like 7 while the Resident Evil movies were still being made. It was so weird. Like, why did she make this movie called Ultraviolet? I won't say anything else about that movie, but it's like a hot mess. But anyway,
Wow.
just to
And
see
that
her
is our
more because I
intro
like her.
into this week's episode of Horror Movie Review.
Yes, yes. No, no, no. This is like this episode's 10-minute little like segue because I
Mm.
actually did want to talk about this genuinely, and this is why. These movies are fucking insane. So there's six of them, and in order they are Resident Evil Apocalypse, then Extinction, then what the fuck comes after that? Afterlife, then Retribution, and then the final chapter. You can tell
I hate that
that
you
they
remembered all the names.
now, listen, you can tell that they made each movie thinking it was going to be the last one. And this is why. The movie titles, first of all. Like, listen to that, right? Like, the second one's called Apocalypse. Like, what could possibly come after that? After the apocalypse? Nothing, right? But no, the movie makes back its budget and then some. So the studio's like, we want more, Paul W.S. Anderson. And they're like, okay, which by the way is the director of all six movies and also married to Mila Jovovich. So kind of
Oh,
weird.
whoa.
Yeah. So they're like, okay, we need to make another one. But what comes after Apocalypse? I guess we can call it Extinction. What after that? Well, I guess we can call it Afterlife. I don't know. It makes no sense. So anyway, second of all, you can tell they like didn't write these out as like a whole like six chapter saga, but rather thought that every movie was the last one because every single movie is very
Self
they all
contained?
have a kind of, yeah, like they all have a very definite sense of finality to them. Like, yeah, there's
Mm.
still zombies at the end of each of them. It's not like they defeat all of the zombies, but they definitely finish the mission that each film sets the cast up for, and it's kind of like done, and that's it. They did it.
It's really just six
So
episodes of a series.
precisely. And third of all, well, actually, I don't know if this really kind of validates what I'm saying, but just like a weird fun fact about these movies is that every single movie except for the first one, because it introduces the universe. Every single movie after the first one talks about the movies before it in the intro with heavy exposition for like 5 minutes. It's insane. Like I've never seen this kind of filmmaking. It's so cheap. It is so like audiences must be stupid, so we have to spoon feed them everything, and that's for 5 straight minutes at the beginning. Like for example, you watch the fifth movie, right? And it starts like this. Hi. By the way, every movie starts with a recording of Mila Jovovich saying, "Hi, my name is Alice," and then recounting the past. So the fifth movie is like, "Hi, my name is Alice. In 2000 and whatever, a virus escaped us." So she's talking about the first movie at this point, and then she goes like, "And then we something something zombies apocalypse." So now she's talking about the second movie, and then she's like, "And then we traveled to Vegas, my team and I, and we defeated more zombies." Now she's talking about the third movie. Like that's literally the start of every movie. She just recaps the old movies, and I'm like, they're doing this obviously because if you're an audience member and you haven't seen the previous movies, they want to kind of like catch up to speed. But that's so cheap. Like,
Honestly, they should have just pulled a Star Wars and had the credits roll at the beginning, you know?
honestly, it's basically what it is. But like,
That's so funny though. So Mila high key is just carrying the entire series
oh,
on her shoulders.
the
It sounds
entire thing. Yeah, it's also like Final Destination movies where like the whole cast dies every movie except she survives, but literally everyone else dies. So it's a whole new
like. Oh
cast
my
every
god,
movie.
I hate that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, probably honestly because old cast members don't want to return because they're like, these movies are gonna like affect my film career. Like, no, I don't want to do more than one. I only did it because I was a newcomer and I needed the work. No, I don't think Mila thinks of it as that. One, because she kind of has like a gives no fucks attitude, which I kind of admire, but also because I think even if it's like a saga of critically panned shitty movies, if you're the protagonist, I think you still make enough bank that it's like it's fine. So
Honestly,
you
yeah.
keep doing them.
Especially, you know, they're making profit. They're paying her well for it,
Oh yeah.
hopefully.
But any supporting actor though, no. So they don't return. There's like a couple returning characters in like the sixth movie that were originally in like the second movie, and I think that's because maybe their careers dried up or something. But other than that, literally everyone dies every movie.
So
So
funny. I wonder if they ever address that by just do they ever just have Mila like curl up in a room and like cry for a while? I mean, that's a lot of trauma for
no,
a character to
someone
just
will
bounce
die.
back from every movie.
No, I mean she'll like shed a tear like while looking hot and like killing a zombie, but that's it. That's like how she grieves, right? Um anyway, like not to spoil a lot, but the last thing I'll say about these is like the Umbrella Corporation, right? These movies are filled with plot holes. I mean, filled to the brim. And obviously they are. Oh, I think that's the third thing. You can tell every movie was going to be the last movie because these movies are filled with plot holes and they try to like write their way into explaining them every movie, but they fail. So the Umbrella Corporation is like the evil corporation that releases this virus into the world because of money. So basically Amazon. So
Okay, yeah, I
they
can see it.
totes. um, in every movie, Sunny, they have a different motive, right? Like every movie, they have a different motive. Not only like for what they're doing going forward, but for why they did the initial original sin of releasing the virus. So like they keep changing their story, and it's weird, right? Because it's not like they're changing their story because someone's asking them or like they're testifying before a jury. They're just doing it like internally, I guess, just because it's funny. So
Incredible.
like right. And like the main CEO at some point in like a third movie turns out, oh no, he wasn't the big one. Like the big shot was actually this one, and this one's the real boss, and like I don't know.
I feel
So
like I feel like when you started talking about this, I thought that you would be like, and after having watched all 6 movies in 2 days, I became an unexpected stan. But all you've done
no,
is
here's the
talk
thing.
about how you binged them and then
Here's the
how
thing.
stupid they were.
Listen, they're stupid. They're full to the brim with plot holes. And like full of one-dimensional characters. But I kind of love these movies because they are just mindless, kind of like the zombies, right? They're kind of just brainless fun. Like
Mm.
I was prefacing this with saying that I'm not an action fan because I was gonna say that after this I kind of like action movies. After this, I actually watch Red and Red 2. I don't know if you know about those movies, but it's
Mm-mm.
like action movies with old people based on a DC comic. And Bruce Willis is in it, and so is Helen Mirren. So it's cool. Morgan Freeman. They're cool, and they're action movies, and they're kind of comedy. So all of a sudden, I like action. Andre is a new person, and the Resident Evil movies are stupid, but they're really fun, and you should watch them. That's it.
Wow. Okay. Noted in terms of the rec. In terms of like what I've been doing to waste time, I've been on a big Tiny Desk concert binge. Do you know those on YouTube?
Mm, no. What is that?
No, totally. So NPR has this thing where they'll have like up and coming musical artists come in to their little studio, which looks like a cute little studio with a desk, which is why it's called a Tiny Desk concert. And they just like record them playing live. But they also get like really big artists. And you basically just get to see artists playing like stripped down versions of their songs using like whatever instruments they can bring to the Tiny Desk concert, you know? Um, so what I'll do is like I'll watch one, and each tends to be anywhere from like 8 minutes to like 20 minutes long. Um, and then I'll watch like 15. And I don't watch all of them. I don't tend to, but they're really really good. BTS just released one. And because of COVID, right now it's like home Tiny Desk concerts, so you just record at home and then NPR uploads it and profits. I don't really know. So,
Wait, can
um,
I just say, by
mm.
the way, about BTS, I felt the same way about Dynamite that I felt about Taylor Swift's Cardigan, but I kind of actually grew on me, and now I'm kind of a BTS stan, so
Wait,
there's that.
right? I
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty
Listen, I
into
still
what I
don't know
have
what
heard
they're
from them.
saying. I'm like 90% sure it's English, but I still groove to it. And that's not their fault. That is not their
I
fault.
don't know. I
English
feel
is
like
probably a very hard second language to learn if your native language is Korean.
oh, for
So,
sure. I feel like 80% of the time though they're singing in Korean, and then they like insert an English word every now and then for like the catchphrase or something.
no, I meant Dynamite specifically.
Oh, oh, gotcha, gotcha.
Which, by the way, I found out is 100% in English. So, yeah.
Damn. Okay, okay.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, okay.
anyway.
I do remember hearing about that a little bit because it was like, oh my god, they sang it all in English. That must have been so hard on them. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they're definitely trying to capture the American market. It worked. It went number one. Also, yeah, I like the song. Please don't cancel me, everyone. I'm just saying I couldn't understand what they were saying, but then I read the lyrics and I'm like, okay, lit. Um, I
Yeah,
mean, yeah, yeah. I mean, lame ass generic lyrics, but that beat though, great. So,
true. My students are all like, well, not all, but a lot of my students are into BTS. Specifically
isn't
Jungkook.
it?
I don't know why he gets so many fans, but
Oh, I think he's the hottest one. Yeah, I actually looked him
really,
up.
see, I think V is the hottest, like easily.
I don't know who that one is, but
He's the
I
hottest
well,
one.
oh, never mind. I got it now. Yeah, isn't it crazy how like globalization allowed for like music from the other side of
Dude,
the world to become so
I
popular
think
here?
about
Like
it
that's
all the
kind of cool.
time. And that music that comes from the other side of the world is influenced by Western music, right?
Us,
Yeah, by
yeah. So
us.
it's kind
Like,
of funny.
yeah, it's insane. They literally took it and then made it better and then said,
If
now let's rub it back in your faces.
it's kind of funny because if anything, yeah, like we're consuming kind of like our old like recycled. It's kind of weird, but like
Yeah.
yeah.
Wait, you want to know like the craziest like lost in translation thing ever?
What is it about how lol in Japanese is grass?
No. But it is a Japanese one. It's about
Oh.
karaoke. So you know how we say karaoke for like singing to music, you know? Um, but in Japanese it's pronounced karaoke, and it actually is supposed to be a shortened version of empty orchestra. Like oke is supposed to be shortened for orchestra, and then kara, I forget why, but it's supposed to mean empty. So basically, Japanese took English and butchered it and said, empty orchestra in English, let's say karaoke in Japanese. And then we looked at the Japanese and said, karaoke for this thing, cool, we'll call it karaoke then. And now we call it karaoke.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah, so,
Um,
in another world, we would just call it empty orchestra, I guess. It's just like a mistranslation of a mistranslation.
huh. By the way, can you explain the Japanese lol grass thing, or do you not know about it? Because I just learned about it from a video.
Oh, I actually don't know about it. Lol means grass?
um, yeah. So like, fuck. I'm definitely not remember this well, but like, in Japanese, laughing out loud, is, oh my god, is like some long ass word, and Japanese didn't want to write that when like the internet first was a thing, so they were like, or when the term first came about, I guess. So they were like, how do we shorten it? And they just took that word started with W, and so they just took like three W's and they made that law, right? Like ha 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 ha
Mm-hmm.
ha. And but three W's looks like grass, and so eventually instead of like writing a bunch of W's, they decided to just use the word for grass, and now that means law. So kusa is law.
That's so funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not weird.
Those kinds of things are so weird, you know?
Yeah, that is pretty strange. So
Yeah. Language is
anyway,
crazy. Culture is crazy. I was thinking about how like all song names now are either in all lowercase or all uppercase. Isn't that so funny?
uh, how song names are?
Yeah. You know? Like even folklore, isn't it all in lowercase?
Oh, you mean like yeah. I mean, I think that's just stylization. I think like, for example, like when artists have to submit their, licensed recordings to like, I don't know, the copyright institution or whatever, it's always like in lower caps. I mean, sorry, it's always in all caps. And like any stylization, for example, in the artist name is removed. So like if when Kesha used to do that back in the day when she still had the money sign in her name, whenever she actually did any like official documents for copyrighting her music with these official institutions, she would remove that. Like stylization
Mm.
is like for actual official documents, like that gets removed, so it's all still normal. But yeah, it is weird how that took over, like, I don't know, the music world, like, and it's cool and hip on Instagram to like write things in lower caps.
Totally,
um
totally. I'm a big fan. I write everything lowercase now.
wow, okay, what a hipster. It's kind of like how we used to back in the day. I don't know if you use a messenger chat like MSN. Like I was on there. I was Hotmail Live MSN chat when I was like 12. Like misspelling things was hip. um
Yeah.
yeah, you might be too young because you are 11, but back in the day, the old people, the boomers like me, we would misspell things on purpose, and that was supposed to be cool, and we would use XD unironically.
Oh, for sure. I definitely remember
Yeah,
a
so
lot of XD. Yeah, and God forbid that you spell out the word before, you know?
yeah, so precisely. So now that everyone's clocked my age, we can return to today's topic, which is we're talking about actually, Sunny. I don't know if I'm gonna rename this. I don't know if I'm actually gonna name it like this on the actual like sites, but I will say today's topic is actually about vile vortices, and this is why.
Mm.
In my research, I found out that vile vortices, there are 12 of these on Earth, and people are like, what the fuck is that? We're talking about the Bermuda Triangle today, and we're talking about the Devil Sea in Japan. And that's just what I thought we were going to talk about, and it is what we're going to talk about. But my point is that, like, I figured out this is actually part of a larger thing that is called the 12 Vile Vortices. Apparently, there's 12 of these fucking spots, just like the ones we're going to talk about in the world, and
Dude,
we're
why
only
are
going
there
to talk about
12
two.
too? That's such a like ordained number, you know?
Right? No. Forget about that, dude. Forget about that. Not only is it a weird number, they're evenly spread, so they actually form an icosahedron. I don't know if you know what that looks like, but it's
No
like this
flipping
polyhedron with 20
way.
faces. Yeah, yeah,
Dude,
yeah,
I
yeah, yeah, yeah.
hate being alive. What does that mean? What?
I mean, it means something, right? Because that's spooky. That's spooky. So yeah, when you these the way they're distributed, actually they're again, so they're evenly distributed across the world. Not only that, but they exist only on two tropics, the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn, and they form this 20 face polyhedron when you look at a globe of the world. So yeah, interesting shit. Anyway, so these vile vortices, there's 12 of them, and today we're talking about two of them. Sunny, what do you have?
All right. So, I mean, I have the Bermuda Triangle, I guess. More like the Bermuda Triangle has, hundreds of planes and ships buried deep within. Um,
Yep.
but the Bermuda Triangle is a triangle in the Atlantic Ocean, which means it's that Eastern Ocean in comparison to the United States. And it's
Mm-hmm.
a triangle between Miami, Florida, which is right at the bottom tip of Florida, Bermuda, the island, which is like northeast of there if you go pretty far out into the sea, mainly east, and then Puerto Rico, which is south of that. So it's kind of like a triangle where Florida's on the left, you've got Bermuda on the right, and then Puerto Rico on the bottom. And
Puerto
it's
Rico, which is, by the way,
mm,
still not the 51st state of the United States, which is wrong. But anyway, continue.
true. T. We'll have to have that be our 18-minute intro next time. But yeah, so the Bermuda Triangle has basically attracted a lot of attention. And one of the reasons for that is that it has been shown that when you're in the Bermuda Triangle, usually if you have a compass, it is showing you the way based on magnetic pull. So the North Pole will pull it, and then it shows you true north or whatever, and that's your compass. That said, though, the poles are moving. So where the North Pole is, like right now, isn't actually like true north on the Earth. Like, your compass is not pointing you directly up the Earth. It is pointing you towards the North Pole. And the poles are moving, and that's a whole like science, geology thing. But in the Bermuda Triangle, and I'm pretty sure in the Devil's Sea too, the Japan area, if you have a compass, instead of pointing towards magnetic north, it will point true north, which can really fuck people up. And
yeah, it's true.
I tried to look up like why that happens, and I think it's just one of those questions that I didn't really come up with anything that was a very clear answer in terms of why it does that. But I think that is so, first of all, just interesting and spooky. So yes, so that can definitely throw people off. But in terms of how it became so infamous, there are basically a lot of incidents of things disappearing in it. So I'll go ahead and name a couple of the most famous ones, and then we'll talk about the article that came out that made the Bermuda Triangle a thing, which didn't come out, it came out in 1964. Somehow, to me, the Bermuda Triangle feels so like it would have existed since the 1800s. You know what I mean? Like, it seems like such a household name. I would have expected it to be older. But it was
well, I mean, people probably called it something else, but they just didn't call it that. But yeah, it was probably around for a long time. I mean, sailors are probably like, be wary of this place for a long time. Yeah.
You would think. But yeah, so it was the term at least was coined in 1964. But in terms of spooky happenings, one of the earlier things that's recorded is that in 1918 there was a naval vessel called the USS Cyclops, which is just a sick name, first of all. Who knew that in 1918 people were styling enough to call a ship a Cyclops, And basically it was supposed to sail to Brazil and Barbados, but after leaving Barbados, the ship and the men on it, there were 309 men, were never seen or heard from again. So basically they searched the ocean, and they didn't find anything, not even an oil slick. And eventually, of course, it was declared that they were lost, and they were never seen again. And this is actually like the biggest loss. I think it's like the biggest non-military loss that the U.S. had recorded at that time. So among its navy. So 300 people on this gigantic 540-foot vessel. That was really important. Called the Cyclops because it's a ginormous monster. Just completely disappears. And in terms of, I'll play the skeptic here, in terms of how it might be explained. There's actually a descendant of one of the people who was lost on the ship, Marvin Barash, who has done some research on why it might have happened the way it did. And he believes that it might have happened because there was an unbalanced, very heavy load, some engine breakdowns, and a big wave that might have sent the ship to the bottom of the Puerto Rico Trench. And the Puerto Rico Trench is the deepest part of the Atlantic Sea, which would be why we haven't found the ship. So that's kind of your skeptic's take. And I also think, just in terms of part of why the Bermuda Triangle is so like scary is that there are huge waves and basically like sea tornadoes. Do you know that scene from The Little Mermaid where Ursula is like huge and she concocts this like
whoa, fat shaming, excuse me. But yeah, I know the scene.
This ginormous whirlpool, and she's super scary. So like those just happen in the Bermuda Triangle, and they actually go upwards, so that it's like a tornado of water is coming out of the water, out of a whirlpool. It's a really cool visual. I wish I could show you the photo, but those happen in in the Bermuda Triangle. Um,
Wow, that's just insane to me. That like, why do some parts of the ocean just have sinks? You know what I mean? Like sinkholes, basically.
right?
Like,
Yeah.
like,
And all yeah, and why is it I mean, part of what I think makes the area so dangerous is that that's the area where hurricanes come through and stuff, you know? If you've ever lived in
mm-hmm.
the South, you know that hurricane season comes each year and
Yeah,
hurricanes
Ashley,
always
come
pass
through.
through that area.
Yeah.
um, so yeah, it's a really treacherous part of the sea essentially. But actually, what gained the Bermuda Triangle a lot of fame was an event in 1945. And that's the story of Flight 19, which is the best known Bermuda Triangle story. Um, so, this is in 1945, and it was supposed to be a very basic exercise that they had done several times. Um, that said, though, basically they had a lead pilot, Charles Taylor. And from what I'm understanding, Charles Taylor was the lead, and he was a veteran, actually a World War II veteran, who was highly experienced. But that day he had requested not to fly at first. We don't know why. And his request was rejected, so he had to fly, and he was surrounded by less experienced pilots. So part of the way through the flight, he basically starts to say like, "Oh my god, I think our compass is fucked up. I don't think we're going the right direction. We're lost. We need to change direction." And he starts having them change direction. But the thing is, when you're like way out at sea, you've got to kind of pick a way. You know, you can say like,
Mm-hmm.
"Let's go back and let's just go east." You can say like, "Let's just go west. Let's just go like northeast," and you'll eventually hit somewhere. But from the sounds of it, it was like he had picked a way and then changed his mind, and then the co-pilots had said they wanted a different way. And um, most people who are, again, like thinking of it skeptically, just think that he ran out of fuel and dropped into the ocean. But what really makes it spooky is that, first of all, he called in and said to whoever he called into, I'm not really sure where we are. It looks like we're entering Whitewater. We're completely lost. And of course, within minutes of that call, a seaplane was sent out with a 13-man crew to the last known position of the plane. And then the search crew disappeared as well. 13 people gone. Um,
Man.
yeah. So the most interesting part I think of this is that part of the explanation given for the search plane disappearing is that apparently there was a search ship that witnessed it in the sky, that saw it explode in the sky, and it said that the sea was really rough that day, so you wouldn't have been able to find any traces of it. But I'm just not sure why a search ship would explode in the sky. Like, I think that's not explored enough. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so we have this missing flight with a veteran pilot, and then we have the search flight sent out after it, which also either disappears or explodes midair, which I think is equally spooky and strange. Um, yeah, and the thing is that this is a flight that he had done several times before, this pilot, so I don't know, it just seems weird for him to lose his bearings that much and to and the thing is with this, I don't know if it's something very spooky. Like there's definitely conjecture about like, is it aliens? Is it some kind of kidnapping or a portal thing? But even if it's not that, even if it's just like people getting that lost, um, that's still really spooky. Like, why is there a part of Earth that is that difficult to navigate? Shouldn't you still be able to see the sun and stuff? And like, you know, I don't know.
Right.
So
I mean, there's a number of things people have come up with that are not paranormal to explain why some parts of the ocean are so hard to navigate. None of them super duper convince me because not like not any of them by themselves explain all of the occurrences or the factors, and I have a hard time being like, well, maybe it's both of them at the same time, because it's like, I don't know, kind of like when we were talking about missing 411. Like, I know, I
mm,
don't think it's like a cryptid and also the aliens at the same time, like they're collabing. No. So people say methane gas, people say
yep,
undersea volcanoes,
yep.
um Yeah, I mean, I don't know though, and I don't super buy that.
Yeah, I mean, and there's just a lot of disappearances reported. But interestingly, again, on the skeptic side, Lloyd's of London, which is an insurance market, does not evaluate the Bermuda Triangle to be any more dangerous than another part of the sea. So there are actually skeptics who argue that Bermuda Triangle, while there are a lot of recorded disappearances, is not necessarily more dangerous because, you know, if an insurance company says it's not that dangerous, they're certainly looking out for their own best interests. If they were to evaluate the Bermuda Triangle as being more dangerous, they would charge people more if they flew through that area, which they don't.
Well, maybe the triangle features the same number of disappearances that any other part of the ocean would. But what is really strange about it is maybe not necessarily how dangerous it is, but how mysterious it is. Like, aren't there a number of ships that have disappeared there and not just stayed disappeared, but like have come up in other parts of the world years or decades later with no crew, but the ships aren't in like derelict condition? So like you should be able to see some like bodies in this
Mm.
previously sunken ship. Like where, like why is the ship only just a little bit fucked up, and also literally no bodies? Like what happened? Where's everyone? Why is this what? So, and why is the ship so far away from where it first was? I mean, I guess ocean currents, yeah, sure, whatever, but like what, it just, it feels weird, it's odd. And it's also not like, oh well, maybe everyone escaped and they're safe and they're alive. No, like anyway, I have info, but that's what has made the Bermuda Triangle really famous. I think the circumstances around the disappearances of
Mm.
its
Mm.
ships and planes and whatever.
Totally. There's also some like historical context. So this came up a couple of times, but actually, when Christopher Columbus sailed through the waters near Bermuda in 1492, he recorded a UFO sighting. So the land was,
What?
yeah. So the admiral at 10 o'clock that evening, standing on the quarterdeck, saw a light, but so small a body that he could not affirm it to be land. So calling to someone else, he told him that he saw a light and told him to look that way, which he did, and also saw the light. So it's two people who just see this spooky light, appearing like the light of a wax candle moving up and down, which some thought was an indication of land, but it turned out not to be land. So
Bruh. Wow. What do you think medieval aliens were like? You think where they're like,
can you imagine if like
"Thou shalt come into this spaceship"? What?
that's such a funny thing to think about, like how much of aliens developed in the time that we have developed.
I mean, you know, assuming they're just like super smart humans, basically, or what I actually think them to be sometimes, which is future humans. You know, why would they? You know, I'm sure they would develop too with time, and like 500 years is a long time. I'm sure they weren't as advanced then as they are now, and isn't that kind of weird to think about? Like, as aliens of just kind of another population of entities, not necessarily something, spooky or ghost like, just kind of,
Totally. But the
they're
thing
just
is, like,
people.
what if time just operated completely differently for them? You know? What if they were the
I mean,
equivalent of like orcas? Or like, I don't know, just like beings that live for a really long time who like move much more slowly, or maybe they have like a far shorter lifespan than us. Like,
it could be that time operates differently for them. I think if that were the case, it would be because they figured out some kind of mechanism or device to experience time differently. Not because, oh, naturally where they live or whatever, time just works differently. Like, I don't know about that.
well, I just feel like
Um,
time is such a comparative thing that, like,
yeah.
what if you had aliens that have like a 1,000 year lifespan, but their like cognitive speed is just much lower than ours? So, like, maybe a conversation for them takes a day, you know? Like,
Ugh. Me when I pull an all nighter. Are you kidding me? Um.
me this very minute, us every week making these conversations take an entire day.
Ah, man. Yeah, I know what you're saying. I think especially if we're talking about interdimensional beings and not just, oh, they're all hiding in Mars, then yeah, it feels more likely that time would work for it differently for them because we literally have no idea what goings on there are in other dimensions. So, you know,
It's all possible.
yeah.
And
So,
if they live
eh,
in a simulation that's a little different from ours, where like things are just sped up a bit.
dude, if they're living in a simulation, we're all fucked. Like, no one can save us because even if the aliens, if the super smart, superior aliens are also living in a simulation instead of them being the ones implementing the simulation, then literally, who is the like, who is the controller? Who made it? Who made the simulation?
I feel
Who?
like there could also be really stupid aliens, or I don't know. I feel like we always just assume that there will be these aliens that find us and are like more advanced. But what if they're just
Mm-hmm.
aliens that are like cavemen? I don't know. Or
Well,
maybe,
I
yeah.
think there's probably multiple forms of aliens in multiple places. I mean, the universe is not infinite, I shouldn't say that, but it is giganormous, right? And
Mm,
so I mean probably not within reach of us, but yeah, there probably are multiple forms of aliens in multiple places, probably a shit ton of them. And I think
true.
I think, Sonny, that the ones that are closest to us or visit us, whatever it is, um, look like Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Gray Aliens kind of shit, right? Because I feel like if this is so deep in our zeitgeist, it's only because we have told stories about creatures like this for fucking centuries. So I'm just gonna go with that and say, if aliens exist, which I wholeheartedly believe they do, and they do visit us, they probably look like that and they're very smart, whatever. However, I also think, as Stephen Hawking talked about this before he died, he was like, I mean, yeah, but also there probably are creatures, with life in other places, but they're like bacteria or goo-like creatures, fucking coral-like creatures. Maybe they're algae. Maybe they're, like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, stupid. So, um, so there you go. Like maybe 10 million light years away on a planet, there's like a shit ton of algae, and that's life. So maybe they have eyes though, and they're weird.
Spooky.
So
I love this. So, speaking of aliens and
yeah.
space, one of the theories about the Bermuda Triangle is that it has a wormhole, which would be why things just seem to disappear and end up elsewhere. Um,
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
yeah. And then, oh, the name for like the water tornado I was thinking of earlier is called a water spout. And they look
Oh,
insane.
okay.
It's literally like a water tornado coming out of a whirlpool. It's so nuts. Oh my gosh. The idea of like,
But
can you imagine sailing and then you see like a sea tornado ahead of you? Like, what do you even, what do?
that's insane. Yeah.
Like you mentioned, some folks have theorized about methane gas, like whether there could be gas blowups that cause, lots of problems and basically cause ships to sink. Um, One theory is that it is a hole in the planet's electromagnetic forces. So this connects to the compass theory, which is what makes it one of the more interesting theories to me. But because compasses point true north rather than magnetic north. Also, isn't it just weird that anything would point true north? Like, anyways, maybe
Yeah.
there's some science behind it, but like, what would pull it to true north? Like,
I think that is very weird. I think when you said that, I was kind of freaked out because, I mean, don't compasses work solely on magnetism? Am I incorrect?
yeah,
So, right. Yeah, so we're on the same page. Yeah, so that is spooky. I mean, I don't know what to say.
it's super weird. Yeah. So it could just be that this is like a place where electromagnetic forces in general have no effect, which I'm sure would cause lots of other weird things to happen that would also um, cause disaster.
But what are the
And
chances that that has no effect, that electromagnetism has no effect in these areas, but the compass would still point you true north? Like, what are the chances of that?
well, that's the thing. If it has no effect, then the compass pointing to true north just has to be happening for another reason entirely. Well, also the true
Mm-hmm.
true north isn't like a magnetic pull. That's the whole thing. Like, what is causing that if not magnetism? Because a magnetism wouldn't pull it to true north. It would pull it to the North Pole. Um, I'm so spooked. Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Um, But yes, so those are some theories. And the last theory, but not least, I think this one is really fun, is that the Bermuda Triangle is actually where Atlantis is located.
I actually I think that's the first theory about this I heard ever when I was like 6 or something.
Really?
So
I
yeah,
had
oh
not
yeah.
heard about it until I did research. Um, so yeah, the idea is that Atlantis is this kind of ancient, ultra advanced civilization, and maybe they're using so much energy down there that it's like causing issues in the sea that causes it to sink ships. Or I mean, if we're going for the ultra advanced civilization theory, then I would just say like, who's to say they're not just grabbing ships to do experiments and stuff? But that's just like total
I
conjecture and for
mean,
fun.
yeah, I mean not experiments, but more like maybe just archiving in their museums. Like, look at this unadvanced human invention. Like now we have I don't know Uber ship. Like I don't know. Maybe in the 50s they were like, look at this shit. So maybe the what is it, Atlanteans? I don't know. Maybe they are. Yeah, I mean, maybe they're stealing our shit.
Totally.
Now, as far as your electromagnetic theory, it's really interesting that you bring that up because the vile vortices theory, I guess I should call it, actually speaks on these places existing precisely because of that. The research that I found on it explains that these areas, the vile vortices, um, occur, they're actually naturally occurring anomalies due to the planet's natural electromagnetic fields being stronger in these parts than anywhere else in the world. So,
Oh,
okay, but like the fact that it is naturally occurring and it would still form this 20 phase polyhedron is still pretty spooky, right? I mean, that's kind of
totally,
odd.
totally. And if it's
Or,
stronger than anywhere else, then why would the compass point true north instead of magnetic north? I don't know. Yeah.
right.
Hmm.
Yeah, so very, 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 very strange. Um, So interesting that you brought that up because that's basically what the wild vortices theory talks about. It's like these places exist where they exist because electromagnetic shit is weird in these places, and like okay, I can understand that. But then when you look at the map of the places, I'm really weirded out that they are so evenly spaced. So anyway,
Yeah. Well, this is so weird because it's like the stuff like that. This where it's like it's evenly spaced natural phenomenon. At that point, it's like, what are you pointing at? Like God? It's like
right? I
why would it
mean,
be this way? Mm.
no. I mean, if anything, that just takes me back to aliens even more. Like maybe
Oh,
these assumed and naturally occurring places are actually placed where they are placed to form this polyhedron, and maybe there's some kind of weird system that aliens just install on our planet because they want to, I don't know, see something happen, measure something, do something. I don't know. I mean, obviously that sounds cuckoo, but my point is it seems purposeful, right? So
yeah.
I don't know about you, but there's not a lot of. I don't know about you, but 20 phase polyhedrons don't occur a lot in nature. So,
No, totally. Well, what's interesting? This reminds me of. Have you ever heard of like argument for intelligent design?
yeah, oh, totally.
Yeah. So it's just interesting.
And then
It's
I look
like
at my dogs and I'm like, no, absolutely not. No. These animals were not intelligently designed. One of them licks its own balls, the other one eats its shit. Like, no.
that's probably how God looks at us. I'm just kidding. But yeah, it's just interesting. It's this whole like segment of science that's dedicated to like looking at our world and basically saying, isn't this too insanely well aligned and like doesn't it just exist in too interesting of a way for this not to have been made by some entity?
I think that I'd have to look at examples of what these researchers are looking at as far as instances of really intelligent design. But, like, for example, sometimes I'll see, like, I don't know, Christian Girl 49 too on Instagram being like, these mountains in the Himalayas or whatever that I traveled to are so beautiful, and look at this view, and it's impossible for this to have been naturally occurring, and it's like a beautiful landscape, but it's all like weird, asymmetrical, non-geometrical at all, super like jarred, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I mean, no, I mean, it is possible. I think we just kind of think of this as so divinely beautiful because we're humans and
Because we are
we're
divinely
biased.
suck.
Yeah, and we're used to seeing just regular ass shit. So when you go somewhere like this, you're like, oh my god, this must have a divine touch to it. When in reality, the fact is just you live in a gray ass city and you never see nature, right? So
Yeah, and okay, you know what this reminds me of? I hate to say it. It reminds me of
what?
arguments for us living in a simulation. Because people are like, look at our laws of nature. They like work too well and too much like computer code and too like arbitrarily for this. Like this could have actually just been someone coding this. Um,
Right.
it's very
Yeah.
much the same idea. Very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, and actually, I don't want to sound like a hypocrite, so I'll actually tell you something really interesting, which is that I don't actually really believe in that. Like, I think that
Hmm.
the episodes that we've made on it are really interesting, and I mean, they speak to a belief that some people have, which is really interesting why they have it, and we explore that.
Hmm.
However, I don't know. I've sat a couple of nights thinking about it because I guess I have nothing better to do, and when I really think about it, it's like two things come to mind, right? One, I don't believe in it because aside from like weird glitch videos that I see on YouTube that are like, oh my god, this car came out of nowhere. Look at this footage. Like that is pretty spooky and weird. But besides that, I think like I don't know. Everything in life feels pretty consequential to me, at least from my own limited personal experience. Very anecdotal. Everything seems pretty consequential. Everything has a pretty clear cause and effect to me. I've never experienced a glitch in person. Like I said, I've only seen videos. So it's probably all real life and we're not living in a simulation. However,
Yeah. No, I would
um,
actually agree because I'm also like, here's the thing. Why would anyone choose to make a consciousness that's this much of a sad hoe? You know what I mean? I'm like,
I mean,
why would you make me? Like, what purpose could I possibly serve some, like, simulation making? You know what I mean? I'm
I
like, you
mean,
wouldn't, like, you could just make a sim for me that does all the things that I do without having my consciousness. I feel
to
like
be
I'm too
fair,
confident in my own consciousness to believe it. But yeah.
when we talk about the simulation, when we talk about this in a previous episodes, you gotta remember that an argument for that actually was that it's not even done on purpose. It's just that the technology that the future humans use to make the simulations is so advanced that automatically, like the NPCs that are created are super sentient and have complex consciousness the way we
Damn.
current humans do. So, if
I'm
anything,
really just a
that's
low
I
level
mean, you're
NPC to them,
yeah,
aren't I?
yeah. So, if anything, your argument is completely explained away by that. So, I mean, to be fair to the simulation theory, there's that, but also, and here's the other thing I was gonna say, like, okay, so maybe I'm completely wrong. But the thing I always come back to is even if I'm wrong and I'm living in a simulation, and this is something my boyfriend says to me a lot whenever I bring this up to him, he's like, "So what? What can you do about it? Who cares? Can you even escape? How does that change your life at all? Right? Because like if you
What
can't
a blue
escape, the
pillar.
assumption
Just kidding. I
it's
forget
true.
which pillow is which, but
I think it's red pillar, Sunny. If the assumption is that you can't escape, right, which seems to be generally what that is, then how does believing that you're in a simulation, like how does that benefit you, right? If anything, don't believe that you're in a simulation.
yeah.
Believe that you're in base reality and just fucking live your life, your
Well,
little
totally.
NPC
That's the
life.
whole thing. I also feel like it's very, I don't know, it's just like weirdly self centered. I just don't see, I don't know, man. Our world just isn't like cool enough or purposeful enough for me to believe that it's a simulation. But, what was I thinking about?
But again, Sunny, you're attributing purpose to why things in this allegedly simulated world are the way that they are. Like, why would anyone want to design such a sad hoe?
Well, here's the
Again, maybe the
thing.
simulation is randomly generated.
Here's the thing. What if, I just think also if you're that advanced of a civilization, you probably have more advanced ethics. Like, I think that a
We touched on
civilization
this, yeah.
that advanced would also recognize like there's no reason for us to create consciousness that's just gonna like waste away in a simulation. You know, like we'll just like make what we need to make, and I don't think they would
I,
like
I
need to make me.
I think that's the best rebuttal to the argument that I make, which is, oh well, it's randomly generated, and and you're saying, well, no, advanced ethics, like humans wouldn't do that because that's unethical. But then the rebuttal to that is it's not unethical because one, you don't know that you are limited, right? Because you don't know that you're in a simulation, and number two, it's not like you waste away. I mean, you live a good life,
I don't know, but
so
the thing
it's.
is, what if we do know? We've got Elon Musk out here. You know,
I
how is he
think
supposed
once
to
we
raise
know
X-ray 23 knowing that we live in a simulation?
I think the day Elon Musk comes out on Twitter and is like, "I have proof we live in a simulation. Here it is. Post it like WikiLeaks style." The aliens are gonna like shut the simulation off. They're like, "Okay, well that's so we got our answer. That's how long
Everything
it took
goes
for them to
black.
figure out they were in a simulation."
That's so funny. And the whole purpose was just to see how long it would take for us to figure
Yeah,
it out.
and if anything, to us, right, the simulation was what 4 billion years, and to them it was like 4 milliseconds.
That's
So
very like what's the word? Inception. That's a very
yeah,
Inception thing.
yeah. So anyway, now let me touch on the Devil Sea real quick.
Yes.
So the Devil Sea is another of the 12 vile vortices, which is like a very Disney term, I feel like. But anyway, they're evil. Another place where electromagnetic energy is really fucked up, and here's what I have to say about it. So the Devil Sea is located near to the Japanese coast. It's in the Pacific Ocean, and it is called Manu Umi by the Japanese, which means that actually like something devilish, not directly, not literally translated to Devil Sea, but something close. So again, one of the 12 vile vortices, and the electromagnetic pull of this place is stronger than other places. That's why it's special, according to this theory. And the Dragon's Triangle, or the Devil's Sea as it's called, extends between Japan and the islands of Bonin, and includes a major portion of the Philippine Sea. So there's your geography. Now, um, this place, shit ton of ships have gone missing in here. This article also talks about the same thing you talked about, like whirlpools, kind of like sea tornadoes,
Mm.
basically just like sucking things into the infinite abyss.
Dude, that's
So like
spooky as
hashtag
hell.
fun,
That's like
right?
that's like
I just
quicksand water, you know?
dude, I'm already afraid of the ocean. Like I'm already I mean like kind of love the beach. You know, we'll swim in it for a while. If I go like too into the sea though while I'm at the beach, and by that I mean like I don't know, a couple of steps, I'm like sharks, danger, kraken, I'm gonna die. I
Dude,
can't.
by the
So
time we're at episode 100, you won't be able to camp or like sail or go to the
or yeah, go to the
sea.
beach,
Yeah,
sail, nothing.
it's
Yeah,
just
like go
nothing. You won't be able
outside.
to look in a mirror because you'll think that it's a portal. Like too many things.
I mean, listen, we've already done 77 episodes of this. Like, I'm already like a different person. Trust me. Closet door closed at all times. We'll only look at the mirror for so long. We'll never go randonauting. Never drive at night in a weird foresty area. Listen, like half of the things I used to do back when I lived back north, like I won't do anymore. Camping canceled. Yeah. So now, it is said that okay, so onto the notable events of this place, which are really really spooky. It is said that the conqueror Kublai Khan, the fifth great Khan of the Mongol Empire and the grandson of Genghis Khan, had tried to make inroads into Japan in 1274 and 1281. However,
Yes.
on both attempts, he failed to invade the country after losing his vessels and 40,000 crew members aboard in this triangular area, reportedly due to typhoons. Very convenient. Maybe the Japanese created this
Dude,
and with like black magic or some shit 1,000 years ago. They're like, this is our defense mechanism to invaders.
that actually connects to a really cool historical, just some really cool historical stuff that one of my Japanese professors talked to me about. Where you know the phrase kamikaze for people in
Yeah,
after
yeah.
World War II, which of course was super controversial and terrible. But that phrase actually means God's wind. Like kami is like a god, and then kaze is wind. So in
Mm.
those invasions in the 1200s and the 1400s, when the Mongol Empire came in and whatnot, they were super strong, and Japan like really couldn't take them. But I think they came in during the wrong season both times. I mean, I guess we'll be talking about what happened. But
Okay,
their
well,
ships got
Devil Sea debunked, I guess.
no, but their ships got sunk, of course, and and Japanese people would say it's kamikaze, like it's God's wind that's like on our side, you know. And so in World War II, when people were using that phrase, they used it on themselves to say like we will be God's wind and like try to protect Japan. So it's actually I feel like it gives some nice historical context to the phrase, which has taken on such a like negative connotation in English use, I guess.
Hmm.
But yeah, I always thought that was super interesting. So yeah, that seems to be such a big part of like the history, those failed Mongol invasions. But yeah,
Interesting. Well, welcome to Etymology Talk, episode 1. No, so As Kublai Khan and his army abandoned the plan to invade Japan, the Japanese believe that it's the god who sent the typhoons to save them from the enemies. So,
Yes.
very related here. Later, strengthening the truth behind the legend, the divers and marine archaeologists that have gone into this place have found the remaining of the Mongol fleets from the region. So I don't know, spooky. Okay, now something else. Another story that does the rounds a lot about this place is that there's the sighting of a mysterious lady sailing a vessel in the Devil's Sea. This was back in the early 1800s. So it is said that the vessel resembled the traditional Japanese equipment for burning incense. However, the destination and the identity of the vessel is still a mystery. So spooky, spooky. Something else pretty spoops about this place is in the later century, especially in the 1940s and 50s, according to this, a number of fishing vessels and over 5 military vessels disappeared in the sea
Oh
in an
shit.
area that lies. Yeah, that's a shit ton of things.
Yeah.
In an
God's like,
area
it's
that
karma
lies.
time, Japan. You've been colonizing for too long.
Korea and China said, "Whoa, yeah." So, in an area that lies between Miyake Island and Iwo Jima. And as a result, Japan sent research ships named Kayomaru Number 5 and Kayomaru Number 4 in 1952 to investigate about the previously missing vessels that had been reported to gone missing in this place. However, the research vessels, with 31 crew members aboard, met the same destiny of the previous vessels. So basically, the research teams that went to research why these ships had disappeared also disappeared.
This is like the rescue
So
team. Dude, it is so
basically,
spooky. What?
yeah, that is spooky.
This is like a
So
scene
the
out of
wreck
a
of
movie. Sorry, yeah?
no, no, that's okay. It is pretty insane. So the wreck of the Kayomaru Number 5, which was one of the recovery ships, was recovered later, but the whereabouts of the crew members were never heard of again. And again, there were no bodies found around where the ship was found under the water. It's just bizarre because, like, here's the thing, right? I understand ship sinking. Ship sink, okay, but where did all those men go? Like, because if they, okay, they either survived, which they didn't because they were never seen again, or okay, they sunk with the ship, but like every other fucking sunken ship, you find bodies in the ship. These sunken ships in areas like the Bermuda Triangle, the Devil's Sea, the 12 other vortices that are, oh, the 10 others that I'm going to talk about in a second, like the bodies are not found. It's only the wreckage, right?
Yeah. Plus,
So
wouldn't you expect the bodies to wash up on shore eventually? You know, or like to come
also,
in?
right, and they don't do that. So what kind of kraken is eating these men and like leaving this ship? You know what I mean? Like that's
It's
what
the
I think of.
Spider Woman that we brought up. Japan's greatest cryptid.
Now, something that I've thought of too, completely just like cuckoo thought. I didn't read this anywhere. It's just what if? Because I love this movie. That's why I thought about this. What if the 12 vortices are places where like you can get sucked into the center of the earth, and that's where all these people are living, thriving. Jules Verne was right.
Oh shit.
So I don't know. I love that movie. That's all I'll say. And they kind of like get there by like their ship sinks or some shit. So that's why I thought about that. Anyway, whatever. Hollow Earth theory. Hello. So yeah. So never found. And then after this, Japan was like, you know what? We're gonna stop researching this. Too bad they died. So
Japan said, let's cut our losses.
yeah, basically.
Yeah.
So now, as far as the origin of the Devil's Sea kind of extrasensory myth, the term dragon in the Devil's Sea, which some people call the dragon's triangle. So okay. So I call it the Devil's Sea. Some people call it the Devil's Triangle. Some people call it the Dragon's Triangle because of the original Japanese term manaumi, which I guess relates to dragons. So anyway, the term dragon in the Devil's Sea originates from the Chinese fable about dragons existing below the water surface. And according to these fables, the dragons under the sea would attack vessels passing by to satiate their hunger. Sounds a lot to me like krakens, but okay. Because I don't believe in dragons, but I believe in, I don't know, other creatures. So these fables have originated, they had originated before at 1000 BC. So a long ass time. The Chinese were like, ooh. So with their emphasis on the presence of mythical creatures like dragons, obviously these fables made a huge impact on this area, and people were like, maybe it's dragons, maybe it's things, maybe it's just the devil. Let's never go here. So, I don't know. I just think that's super interesting.
Yeah. I mean, you
Again,
know what? When we did our last cryptid episode, what I do believe Japan, at least at one point, had is just a huge, huge fucking squid. Like a 100-foot long squid. So
yeah,
that could have done some mad damage if it was looking to pull down some ships.
yep, yeah. As far as like skeptical explanations for this, there's a lot of talk of subsea volcanoes because apparently like eruptions from these volcanoes could initiate accidents, which would substantiate the claims of like dragons sucking in ships, meaning like these undersea volcanoes maybe cause whirlpools and suck in things. Uh,
Ooh.
but again, um, things disappearing in these places and then appearing in other places very far away with no crew is really strange. So
Yeah, like
make
why are
that
the
make
crew
sense.
disappearing? What wants
Not
the
only
crew here? What?
right, exactly. It seems intentional. So
Indeed. I feel like we've
now,
become investigators.
oh, for sure. Are you kidding me? I'm invested in this. So, as far as the 10 other vortices in the Tropic of Cancer, the three others are at Mohenjo-daro, which is near Africa, then Hamakulia in Hawaii, and the megalithic ruins of Algeria. So, what you'll notice is these are not all ocean spaces. They're just places that they could even be on land where electromagnetic energy is really concentrated and really strong, and people like have mapped this, and that's how they come to this 20 phase polyhedron. But no, they're not all ocean spaces that suck in things. Only some of them are.
Interesting. What happens on the land ones? I feel like we'll have
The
to.
same thing, the same. Well, your compasses do the same thing. I can tell you that's one thing that
Oh yeah,
happens. That
I
they'll
feel like
start
I saw something mentioned that the Gobi Desert also really fucks with compasses. I don't know if that's one of them,
that.
but
I'm that. I don't. Well, I'm to be frank. Mohenjo-daro might be close to that, but I could be. Yeah, maybe I got it wrong. I didn't look into that one, but if it is close to the Gobi Desert, then that speaks to what you're saying. But I'm not gonna say it is. So there's also on the Tropic of Capricorn. There's five. There's the South Atlantic anomaly, which that one is an ocean thing. There's the megaliths of Zimbabwe, which is like place, ruins, rocks. The Wharton Basin, and then there's the Hebrides Trench, which is in the Fiji Islands, so again in the Pacific, and then there's the Easter Islands. The Easter Islands are in the Pacific? Am I mistaken?
that's a good question. I have no idea.
I think so.
That's
But
so interesting
anyway,
that Easter Island is also one of those, because I feel like isn't that place supposed to be spook and have some like unexplained stuff going on?
right. So isn't it weird that it's one of the spots? It's in fuck, Polynesia.
Yeah, you know what?
So pretty sure.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because Bermuda has also been connected with spook stuff a long time, like as an island before the Bermuda Triangle specifically was recorded as a thing. So,
Right. So the reason I mentioned like I was like, oh, is it in the Pacific? Is it not? Is because I'm just thinking like I don't know Pacific Rim shit. I don't think this actually lines up. I mean, it definitely. I mean, it does for some, but definitely not for all of them. Obviously, because they're spread around the world. That's why it ends up being a polyhedron. But it is interesting that like some of them do line up close to the Pacific Rim. That is strange. So spooky, spooky. I don't know. I'm kind of just trying to like pull things out of my ass to like see what could like fit with this because I'm so shook by this. I like especially the 12 vial vortices thing. Like I had no idea this was a thing before today.
me neither.
So
It is
yeah.
super interesting. Yeah, it's not like. It feels like something, because it's about like the very makeup of the world, it
Mm-hmm.
feels a lot more like we would have to come up with a very all encompassing theory. Like, it's not just like, oh, the ghosts made the vortices, you know? Um,
Yeah. Exactly. The ghost of the Pacific. No. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just it's strange. I'm kind of interested in covering in a future episode some more of these vortices because they are bizarre. Um maybe we'll end up making some connections if we do. But yeah, other than that, that's all I have.
I'm interested as well. Yeah, and that's pretty much all for me as well then.
Yeah, so that's our episode, everyone. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you were spooked like this episode, hated it, loved it, please do let us know by DMing us at Talk Scary on Twitter and Instagram, or at Scary Talk on our Facebook page. Remember that you can listen to us on all podcast listening platforms: Spotify, Apple Music, Stitcher, TuneIn, etc. We are now on Amazon Music podcasts, so you can check
Hell
us out there.
yeah.
If that's something you use. Yeah, and we have merch. You can go check that out on our just go to our Twitter or Insta, and like our link in our bios, that'll lead you to our
The
merch. So if you want to
Mothman
check that
pillow
out,
is
that's
really
there.
cute. I can testify.
Yes, you can testify. So can I. So can Shannon. Because yes, I buy my own merch at full price, mind you, because I kind of stand it and love it. So there's that. And yeah, if you have any future episode ideas, same thing. Just DM us, let us know. And remember, no large meals before bedtime. The Mothman is real. Sunny's a sad hoe, and I'm
How
I'm
could
kind
you
of
do
honestly there
that?
too. So so good night, everyone.
Good night.